Hi, I'm Alissa.
And I'm Rowan.
And this is What We're Not Taking to Our Graves.
Today we're going to be talking about parts of your life that made you the person you are today.
I feel like that's valid. It does sound heavy, though.
I mean, isn't that what we're doing here?
I guess. Okay. Where are we starting?
Well, I feel like we have to start at the beginning.
Okay.
And, just talking about your childhood and parts of your childhood that, I don't know, that stuck out to you that you feel like were very prevalent.
While you were talking, when we recorded your episode, I found it interesting that you said that you felt like your early years weren't as defining as like your older years and the things that happened, whereas I kind of feel the opposite. So I am the firstborn to two teenage parents. And with that being said, she did a good job. She did her best. We're not mad at it. But when it all was said and done between both my parents, I was the oldest of 7. And I was the oldest of 7, like, within 5.5, 6 years. Like, they were just popping kids out. And my sperm donor, which is what we call him, he was dog shit. Like, there's no nice way to put that. He did a lot of flip-flopping between my mom and the woman who would be my stepmom for a couple years. And there was a really big gap of time when I didn't see him at all. And in that time, my mom found my stepdad. They got married, had 2 more kiddos. And I remember I didn't know what it was to have a dad. Because I was so young when they separated, that when he came in and he was being the dad, I used to tell him all the time, "You're not even my dad."
Ouch.
I know, which, like, in hindsight, I feel bad for the man because truthfully, he would turn out to be the only dad I ever really had. And was he perfect? No, but he was better than the 1.0 version. You know what I mean? My mom did upgrade a little bit. And I remember carrying that with me. Like, I remember when kids at school found out what a bastard was.
No.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And I was called a bastard a lot. And so, like, that was really rough. And when I was in the 5th grade, my mom sat me down one day and she said, "Your biological dad has reached out. He wants to see you." At this point, I haven't seen this man in at least 4 or 5 years. And she was like, "He wants to spend some time with you guys. The decision is yours." As a kid, I thought, wow, my mom trusts me. As a grown up, my mom should have said absolutely the fuck not. But I was very parentified as a child because I was the oldest, because my mom was working a lot, because my stepdad, even though he was significantly better than the sperm donor, he did have an addiction problem. I remember being in the 5th grade and begging my mom to leave my stepdad. Just like, I would see her so upset and so, stressed out by the things she was going through. And I didn't understand it. But what I did understand is that my mom was crying at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday in her bed. Like, we got to leave the motherfucker. Let's leave the motherfucker. Like, I've been pro-divorce since day one.
A girl's girl, if nothing else.
Literally. And so we did end up spending some time with my biological dad. And it was so bad. He used to make us sit in his office, us being me and 2 of my younger sisters, and would give us shots of beer and see who could take the most shots. I was in the 5th grade, so that's 10, give or take.
Yeah.
That means that my sister, who's directly below me, would have been 9, and then my younger sister would have been 7, 6.5, 7. The following year, I went to California with my grandparents who lived up there, and they sat me down one day and they said, "Hey, no more internet for the rest of the summer. I need you to take my word for it. You're not in trouble. No more internet." And I said, "Sounds sus, but okay. Sure. I mean, you just bought me 30 books at the local bookstore. I don't need the internet." We came home. My mom picked us up from the airport. And she said, "Congratulations, we live in Spring now," and pulled up to the little house in Bridgestone. And I said, okay. Like, we had known that they were kind of talking about moving, but like, and maybe they had mentioned that it was official on the phone or something, but like my 10-year-old brain, it didn't compute, you know? We unload, we get inside, and I'm like, where's Dad? Well, Dad was in rehab. And I was like, okay, it's good, I guess. So we're living in this new town. I don't have a dad anymore.
Both of our parents went to rehab when we were 10?
Twins.
Just realized, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just realized that as you were telling the story. Okay, good on us. Cool.
And so this was not the first time that the man had attempted rehab. I want to put that out there.
I think this was my mom's second when I was 10.
And so I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's rock and roll. And my mom said, also, one more thing. Your biological father is in prison.
Well, that's a little heavy.
And I said, okay, why? Do I get to know why? And she said, yes, but you can't tell your sister. Because I have one full-blooded sister. So she goes, yes, but you can't tell your sister. And I said, fantastic. I don't tell that bitch anything. She's 7. Let's go. He decided that a good use of his time and a good outlet for his anger was to beat my uncle to death with a baseball bat. And I'm not going to claim to be close to this uncle. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't. I remember thinking, that's the man who made me. Like, my mom, for all her faults, is a very gentle person. Like, in her old age, she's gotten a little bit more of a backbone, but like, she is very just gentle, and she really does care what people think, and she cares about your feelings and all of this. And so seeing that stark difference, it really fucked with me as a kid. And then also, like, my dad's in prison and I'm gonna have to tell people that, you know, we were at that age where everyone was really curious about everyone else's families and that kind of stuff. And we're spending more time at each other's house, and we're having sleepovers, and, you know, we're carpooling to stuff. And I had just moved to a new city where I didn't have any friends. The only friends I had were my aunt's friends, and she's, you know, 3 years older than I am. And I remember sitting there and being like, I'm going to have to go into the school, this brand new school, with no friends. And when people ask me, oh, what does your dad do for work? I'm going to say, which one? The one in prison or the one in rehab?
Dealer's choice. Like, honestly, at that point. Oh, gosh.
And so it was something that I was very, very insecure about. And I'm getting more emotional than I thought I would be talking about this. But it was really hard. And I was very much expected to kind of step in as dad when my dad was gone. Because like I said, he did attempt rehab a couple times. And when he wasn't attempting rehab, he was hopped up on pills. Like, even if dad
was anti-rehab, basically.
Even if dad was in the building, dad wasn't home. You know what I mean?
Lights on, no one's home.
And so it was very much like, if dad was there, then fantastic. Like, dad would get everyone up for school, make breakfast, take us out. But if he wasn't there, then I was getting everyone up. I was getting everyone out the door. I was making sure that the littles got to the elementary school before I took me and my other sister to the middle school. I was walking us home from school. I was, you know what, I was doing the things. When the littles had their talent show at the elementary school, I was choreographing the dance routine and walking them up there for the show. Like, very much was expected to be an adult at an age when I didn't really have a good example of an adult. And I really don't want to shut out my mom, because she really did do her best. Yeah. 100%. I don't know that I could have done a better job if I was dealt the hand she was dealt. But at the same time, she was working nonstop. She did a little dabbling of her own. You know, we're not going to hate on her for it. But it was really hard. And so when I got into probably the 7th or 8th grade, I developed a really, really bad eating disorder that lasted probably middle to end of my sophomore year, now that I think about it. At the end of 7th grade, I had someone who was very close. I had no male figures in my life. Okay, I had like 2 to 3, and they weren't people who lived in my house, who I like would consider like a strong male presence in my life. And at the end of my 7th grade year, I had like put on a little bit of like puberty weight. Like, it wasn't anything crazy, but like I was getting boobs, and I had a little bit of a curve going, right? And he poked my belly and he said, "What is that?" And I said, well, I'm fucked. Thank you so much. I said, I don't know, but it won't be there next year. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. So at that time, I think that I weighed about 125, which, like, I'm 5'2", 125. I had already reached max height by that age, okay? That's a pretty decent weight. Is it a little bit heavy for a kid going through puberty? Maybe it's, like, on the slightly heavier side. Like, I'm using that term very loosely.
With your height, though, I don't think so.
I'm using that term very loosely.
I really don't think so with the height, though.
I don't know. We'll find out when our kids are 12.
They're going to be perfect, though. So we're going to just be biased.
Probably. And so, end of 7th grade, I was about 125. Thanksgiving, my freshman year, I weighed 96 pounds.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. I used to, and I'm going to be honest, I don't even know where I got the money to do this because I was in the 7th and 8th grade. Like, I didn't have a job yet. I'm so sorry, Mom. I guess I was stealing money. Probably.
On brand.
But I used to buy laxatives and just pop them like candy. And then my dad mentioned one time that my aunt used to do 100 crunches every night. And so I started doing 100 crunches every night. I damn near stopped eating. Like, I remember I used to, before I would leave for school in the morning, I would cut an apple. And that was what I could eat for the day. I had these vitamins from Melaleuca.
I don't know what that is.
My mom, it's like a MLM.
We love a good MLM.
My mom loves a good MLM, okay? And so they were really strong. Like, when you took them, like, your pee was, like, yellow. Like, bright yellow.
That does not sound healthy.
And so I used to take them before eating because they were so strong I would puke. And I remember one time I was in Washington. I was visiting my best friend at the time. And I had done that. Like, I had taken my vitamins. And then I went to go sit down to eat a grapefruit real quick to make it look normal, like I was eating breakfast with everyone. And then they were not out of school yet. And so they left for school, and it was just me and their mom. And as soon as they walked out the door, I ran to the bathroom and puked. And I came out, and she looked at me, and she goes, "Not here." And I said, "Are you keeping a close eye on me now?"
Are you keeping tabs?
And I was just like, oh, my vitamins, sometimes they hurt my stomach if I take them before I eat. I'll just have to remember to take them after I eat. She goes, "I'll remind you."
Damn.
And I was like, oh, in hindsight, you go. You were, like, that's the motherfucking goat right there.
No, she was doing the right things.
But at the time, I was like, little bitch. I'm just trying to throw up. There was one time that I was driving. I don't think she actually knows this. I was driving my mom's car, and I passed out. And
while driving, you passed out.
While driving, I passed out, and I ran over someone's mailbox.
Oh my God.
And I didn't want to tell my mom and dad that I passed out because I was scared that they were going to make me start eating wild.
Rather than think you just crashed the car. It's fine.
And so I told her that I couldn't figure out the radio. And she was like, "If you were texting, just tell me." And I was like,
"Yeah, I was texting."
Mom, I promise I wasn't texting. Like, to this day, she probably thinks I was texting.
Not after she listens to this.
No, I for sure passed out. And, like, it was very much me trying to control whatever I could control. Because every aspect of my life was so far out of my control, and there was nothing I could do about it. I had my stepdad in and out of rehab saying the most out-of-pocket things to my friends, like asking one of my guy friends if he could smell their fingers. I didn't even understand what that meant at the time.
Say what you want about Gary, but like,
I know,
right?
I know. And then I had my real dad who was in prison, and I guess there was some sort of process where if enough people wrote letters, we could get him out. Or wrote,
it was like the character witness.
Yes, something like that. And I was like, honestly, man, rot in prison for all I fucking care. Like, I did go visit him once. And I remember being so upset because I was 11 years old. My dad was literally behind bars. Like, it was maximum security prison. And I was crying and he was like, why are you upset? I'm the one in prison. And I was like, oh, I forgot you're a dick. That's my bad. That's my bad. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. You won't see them tears again. Then I had my mom who was working her butt off and she was so stressed. And she was working for my grandpa. And at the time, his business was not doing well. And so he was stressed and my Mimi was stressed. And like there was so much happening. And I was just grasping at straws. Like, what can I be in charge of? What can I control? What can I take the reins of and do something about? And that was the main thing. What we're also going to touch on right now is that I was a wild child. I want to make that clear. I might have been the third parent in that household, but as soon as those kids were tucked into bed safely, I was for sure sneaking out, breaking into the neighborhood pool and going skinny dipping with my boyfriend. Like, I was doing a lot of things. And I was also dealing with intense depression. I remember telling my mom, I cried on the floor in this hallway until I passed out, like until I fell asleep. And she was like, what is going on? And I was like, there's so much darkness. There's so much darkness. And I don't know how to escape it. I don't know what to do. And I really didn't turn to drugs. Did try Xanax once and bars, which they might actually be the same thing. I don't know enough about pills because my dad did them. And I said, they're available at my local drug dealer. Let's see what the hype is about. I just went to sleep. And I said, maybe I should be prescribed this, actually.
Isn't Xanax actually prescribed for depression, anxiety? Or no, it's anxiety.
It's for anxiety, yes.
Yeah, it's anxiety. So if you were already struggling with that,
yes.
wouldn't it just...
You just chill me out, man. I'm telling you.
It just helped you.
But I really didn't. I didn't smoke weed until I was 18, which I guess I was still technically in high school. But I did it while we were in Washington one time. But yeah, I guess my like major coping skills were just like not eating and also being as reckless and wild as possible.
Like no big deal. It's like fine. It's chill. You know,
I feel like that's fine. I could have done so many other things.
So there's so many worse things you could do.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not a healthy way of looking at it, but it's
I
true.
could have been worse.
Well, can I ask you this? Do you feel like all the things that have shaped you through your childhood, like all those things that you were going through at once, do you feel like at this point in your life you are kind of far removed from it, or do you feel like it's still really relevant to you and how you feel internally?
I think that it's still relevant because I didn't realize that I needed to heal from these things until I took a grippy sock vacation. I really just... It's not that I couldn't articulate and recognize that like bad things had happened to me as a kid, right? And there's so much more that I'm not gonna divulge, unfortunately. Like that one time my grandpa tried to leave us on Thanksgiving with a mail order bride. R.I.P. Fatty. But like that one was fucked up.
We miss you, but
like that one did a number on me, I won't lie. So like I had become so accustomed to talking to people and saying, my name's Alissa, here are the things that have happened to me. Because I did have a stepdad. And so naturally people are going to ask, well, where's your biological dad? And so then I'd have to say, the man's in prison, or, he's not in prison anymore, but I don't talk to him because he's a piece of shit.
I almost said it was.
So like, it just was something that I was so used to kind of dictating and, you know, just saying out of like memorization. And then, so rewind a little before we get to the grippy sock, because
we got a little ahead of ourselves.
I want to say I was 16. Ages 16 to 19. I was in a relationship with a boy.
I was taking a sip, but that was like, boy.
Who really fucked me up. I really thought that this was like my soulmate, which is so sad. Poor baby Alissa, to think that like this was the best she could get. And I was going to say, I will say he never hit me. But I did learn at the grippy sock that if someone throws an item and it doesn't hit you, but it was intended to hit you, that counts as hitting you.
I feel like I need more.
I was shocked too. And there was a lot. It was a lot of gaslighting. It was a lot of emotional abuse. It was a lot of financial abuse, because I did end up supporting this fucker while he was cheating on me. it was a lot. He isolated me away from my family and friends. While I was still with my family and friends, he burned so many of those bridges before he took me away from them completely, and kind of put me in a space to where he felt like he could do whatever he wanted because I couldn't go anywhere. And I very much felt that way for a while. And it wasn't until I had hit my breaking point and I called my aunt, and it was like the middle of the night. I don't even know what time it was in Texas. And I was crying and I was like, I want to come home. I can't be here anymore, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out. I'm terrified, but I need to leave. And she was like, I'm booking a flight. I will fly up there, meet me at the airport, pick me up. We will drive home together. And I remember like it was like she couldn't get a flight until like a week from that day. And so I remember the whole week up until that point, I was like giving this man so many chances to redeem himself. Like, I knew that I was leaving, but he didn't know that I was leaving. And so I would be like, hey, do you want to stay home tonight instead of going out with your friends? And he'd be like, no, I'm going out with my friends. Or one day I was like, hey, I'll call into work today. Let's just spend the day together. And he was like, no, you need to go to work. We need the money. Even though he wasn't working, he was just fucking bitches while I was at work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I gave him so many chances. And it was actually really badass. I convinced him to stay the night at his brother's house the night before Amanda flew in. I woke up in the morning, like 3 hours earlier than I needed to, left him a long letter talking about how I knew every single thing he did, and like timestamps and receipts. And I said, we are done. And then I went to the apartment, packed up everything I could fit in my car, picked up Amanda, and by the time he woke up, we were already, like, in Idaho.
I love that for you so much, and I'm so proud of past Alissa because you are a very strong person. You are.
That was the hardest thing I had ever did.
That was a very pivotal point for you.
It was. You asked me earlier if I thought that my divorce was the hardest thing I'd ever done, and it wasn't. But crossing that border, it was like I could feel the weight. Like I felt like up until that point, I felt like he was right on our trail, like he was coming. And then we crossed the border and I was like, okay, I can breathe. Like, I'm not alone. I have my aunt. Like, I'm okay. And I cried so much on that 24-hour drive home. And then I got home and I was so nervous because I had been so isolated from my family that, like, I didn't even know if I was, this sounds so crazy because I know their hearts. But at the time I was like, what if they don't even want me to come home? Like, what if they don't want me to move back into my old room? And I remember coming home, and at the time I had lived with my Mimi and Fatty, and it was so late when we got in. And I opened the door, and he was just waiting. And he was like, I was just waiting up for you guys. Like, I just want to make sure you got here safe. And then Mimi sitting on the couch watching her little movie. And it was like nothing had changed. And it was so sweet. And they helped me bring all my stuff in out of my car. And I just sat in my room surrounded by all my stuff that needed to be unpacked, just sobbing. And the next day, all of our family came over. And we, like, went out to dinner for Amanda's birthday. And they all just came. And, like, my auntie helped me unpack my stuff. Like, it was just one of those, like, so cheesy, but, like, one of those legit, like, Hallmark moments where, like, my family is not perfect. Like, we have a lot of trauma from each other. We have it's not just, like, oh, we all have our individual trauma that we're dealing, like, a lot of our trauma is, like, stuff that we've done to each other. And so a lot of the times it's hard to feel like that deep of a love until something like that happens and we all come together and show up for each other. And it just, gosh, I haven't cried about this in so many years.
And watching you cry is making me cry.
And so, anyways, enough of that. And so then, deflect. Put that away. We'll unpack that again later.
Put that back in the box.
So then I get married, and I have some babies.
The best babies.
They're so cute.
They're so good.
Ella is I got married in 2017, November 2017. Ella was born September 2018. The twins were born December of 2019. And then Fatty died in 2020. And that was really, really hard. I joke about it a lot.
Best way to cope.
I joke about it a lot because honestly, it's not funny how he died. Like, it's actually really fucking tragic. But, like, he wasn't the one I expected to die. Realistically, the man was probably in better shape than I was. Like, he hit the gym every day. I'm talking Stairmaster. Like,
wasn't the Stairmaster?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
And so that was really hard because he was the main male role model I had. He was the only... And I say that, remember, he still did try to leave us on Thanksgiving morning, okay? Like, he wasn't perfect.
It's so weird to think about because Mimi, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
It's like...
I know.
I never knew Fatty and Mimi together, though.
I know, that's true.
I only know your badass grandma, you know? Like,
and so, he wasn't perfect, but he was, like... He was the type of man that would have your back no matter what. I remember so many times where I would be doing some hood rat shit. And my mom would come in and be like, what are you doing? And he'd be like, no, she's not doing anything. She's fine. Don't even worry about it. And then he'd pull me aside later and be like, that was a bit too far. Reel it in a little. You almost got caught there.
He sounded like he was a girl's girl, too.
He was a girl's girl. Like, he was everyone's best friend. He was such a fantastic human. And he loved the kids so much. And that, I feel like, is what, like, really hurts, is because, like, I wanted him to be a grandpa to them so bad. And he was for a couple years. But, you know, the twins were not even 1. And Ella would have been 2.5. Like, it wasn't enough time.
They were
and
too
it
little.
Felt so unfair. And when this happened, I was still dealing tremendously with postpartum OCD, postpartum anxiety. I didn't know at the time that that's what it was, but I was stressing out so bad. I was at my wit's end. I was crying in the bathtub every single night. And then my best friend in the entire world dies. And then we had another loss. And it was just a few weeks later. And I remember dropping the kids off at Mimi's for that funeral. And I walked in the door and I, like, just instinctively, because I was so exhausted, I was so sad, I was so stressed, I opened that door and went, and I was looking for him. And then I realized he wasn't there. And I started crying in the foyer. And my aunt was like, hey, it's okay. Like, it's all right. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I walked in that door expecting to hug him, and he's not here. Like, it was such a mind fuck, because for so long, for damn near 20 years, every time I walked in those doors, I could count on getting a hug. And in that moment where I feel like probably in my entire life, that's the time I needed a hug the most, like, he wasn't there. And so that was really hard. And so that was in 2020. And I feel like... We were talking earlier about, like, rock bottom. I feel like that might have been my rock bottom. Like, I lost so many people in those couple of years. And my marriage wasn't great. It wasn't totally on the rocks quite yet, but, like, it wasn't fantastic. I was literally in the darkest of dark pits. And I feel like it just kind of continued to get worse. And then it would get better for, you know, a couple weeks, a couple months, and I would be like, wow, we've finally gotten through this, and then I would just be slammed back down into the pits. And in 2022 is when Dylan and I started the process of separating. One of, like, our agreements was that we would do couples therapy. So we went into couples therapy and both came out of it feeling just kind of whatever. I remember crying to him and being like, I just don't fucking know. Like, I don't know what you want from me. I don't know what I can give. I don't know. And he was like, do you feel like you would benefit from just taking a grippy sock vacation? And he used different words.
I know, that's why I'm laughing. I'm sorry.
And I was like, no, I'm not crazy.
Did you really feel that way, though?
I really did. I'm not going to lie.
We always joked. You know what I mean? Like, we always joked about grippy sock vacations. And
I think
not that it's funny, but just, like, we were struggling.
I think that my biggest fear was if I did a stint at the mental hospital and then we did get divorced, would that look bad?
I understand.
Would that make me look like an unfit mother? Even if I really did need it. Like, I really did. But would it make me look like an unfit mother? You know what I mean? Like, at this time, we're having that conversation of, are we going to stay married? Are we not going to stay married? And I definitely had the mindset of, are you suggesting this so you can use it against me later? Yeah. Not to say that he really isn't manipulative. Like, you know what I mean? But, like, the thought was there.
Well, y'all were also in a weird place.
We were.
And so it's not that inherently you couldn't trust him, but at that time there's a lot up in the air. So I feel like you got to give yourself a little grace. Like, I did think it when I was going through my own similar situations. I feel like it's a very normal thought to have.
And so I ultimately decided to take the grippy sock vacation. I did the outpatient one. So I just went, I think it was from like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
That feels right. 3 p.m. And then I got to come home afterwards. And I went into it not really knowing how it was going to help me, right? Because I didn't see myself as someone who was having a mental breakdown.
What did you feel like was going on?
I just felt like I was like a normal person going through a divorce. Like, at this point, I still hadn't even, I guess, admitted to myself that the things I had experienced were classified as traumatic. And so on one of my first days, they had us take, what's it called? The ACE test. Basically, it's this test. And there's 10 questions on it. And if you have like over 6 questions as a yes, you are considered to be a person with trauma.
Oh, so fun.
Yes.
That is so fun for you.
Yes. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm checking the boxes. And I'm like, everyone's going to have a 10. Like, these are so easy questions.
It's so normal.
And so there was one question that said, has someone ever hit you or thrown an object to hit you or something like that? Hit you or thrown an object at you or something. And I raised my hand and I said, hey, ma'am, I said, this means like you actually got hit with an object, right? And she goes, why do you ask that? And I said, well, because, I mean, I've had objects thrown, but like I haven't gotten hit with them. And she said, that's a yes. Put yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, whatever. And so I finished and I get a 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I'm a winner.
Nothing else.
And so she goes, okay, we're going to go around and share our scores. Because that was the thing. And it was group therapy. And so anything we did, we had to share out loud, which was interesting.
Yeah. How'd you feel about that?
Listen, I'm not worried. I'm thinking, okay, if I got a 10, everyone got a 10, right? 2, 4, 1, 5, 6. I said, oh shit, I didn't do the test.
I answered wrong.
I didn't do the test. Don't look at my answers. And she was like, Alissa, what is your number? And I said, it's fucking 10. It's fucking 10. Don't make me say that any louder, because I expected there to be more 10s in here. And that's when I kind of, for the first time, she said, how do you feel about that? And I said, first off, stop being a cliche. That's embarrassing for both of us. You get paid more than that, because I know what I paid to be here. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really feel like any of these things were super traumatic. And she was like, we'll see about that. And then there were so many tears, because we talked about so many things. We were working through something in particular, and I don't remember exactly what it was. And we were going back and forth, and she was like trying to get me to find words. And she was like, why do you think that is? And I was like, I don't know. Can you just tell me why that is? And she goes, because no one's ever prioritized you. That's why you feel that way. That's why you feel like that's what you deserve. And I was like, ouch. And I sat with that. And I said, you know what? I think you might be right. Because I think that my mom did in the best way that she could. I don't blame her for it because she had 4 kids to keep fed and keep dressed and all the things. And she was also so young. You know what I mean? Like, by the time my mom was our age, she had a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old. That's crazy. So I don't think that it's that my mom didn't prioritize me. I think that it's that my mom didn't have the capability to kind of prioritize me in a way that wasn't just clumping me in with the kids, right? Neither of my dads ever prioritized me. Like, I think that my stepdad thinks that he did in the very traditional sense of, I put a roof over your head, you know? Like, respectfully, I don't think my husband prioritized me. And I think that I'm kind of removed from this one.
The husband.
Yeah. Because I don't think that he did it intentionally. I think that he really did, at least for the first couple of years, I think that he really did think he was doing what he was meant to be doing. I think that he was very much raised in the mindset of the dads need to provide. And he did that. Like, I will give that to him. But he, on the emotional front, is where we really lacked. And I remember sitting there in that poor woman's office, spiraling. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't even prioritize me. I put myself last behind the guy at the grocery store. Like, I have never once thought about putting me first and what that would do. And I struggled so much while I was in there. We kind of came to the realization that I did not have super bad anxiety like I had been told, but that I did in fact have OCD. And I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And it was kind of this, let's try this and let's try that, and just a game with meds in the beginning. It got so bad that one night I literally sat in my bed for like 8 hours just hallucinating because I hadn't slept for 11 days and they just kept changing my meds. And I was like, hey nurse, I for sure stayed up all night hallucinating. Can we just like give me a shot of something to put me to sleep? Like, when you're manic, you get to this point of like, it's not fun anymore. I'm scared. Take it away from me. Take the manic away from me. I'm not having fun. I'm scared. I just want to go to sleep. I want my pupils to go back down to the right size, and I want to live a normal life. I'll even take being depressed if that's what it means. And luckily, we did find meds that work, and I've been on them ever since.
When she takes them,
I've been doing pretty good.
No, I used to have to make you send me videos.
You did.
But then you also had to do it to me, so it's okay.
And so I feel like being in the mental hospital was kind of, I don't even want to call it that.
I was going to say mental hospital doesn't feel right.
Being at Woodland Springs, we'll give them the credit they deserve.
Okay. That sounds so much, like, it sounds so, like,
prettier.
Yeah, the Woodlands.
I feel like that's kind of where, like, my healing actually started.
For the first time?
For the first time. Because I don't think that up until that point, I had even realized that I had feelings, like, specifically about these things that were just stories that I spoke from my memory.
You wrote them off.
Like,
yeah.
It wasn't something that I thought I needed to heal from, because why would I? It happened so long ago. And, like, I remember sitting in my bed one day after I had gotten home, and Dylan was sitting on the couch in our room, and I was talking about something that we had gone over in group that day. And he was like, I didn't know that about you. What else do I not know about you? And I was like, let's fucking go down the rabbit hole. And I remember sitting there and telling him all of these things, and just kind of like how we are now. Like, I was just like, and then this happened, and then that happened. And I said, yeah, and my cousin used to touch me, and I used to cry and tell everyone, and nobody believed me. And he was like, what? And I was like, oh, that's shit. That's one of those things too. Fuck, like, jot that down.
Trigger warning.
Like,
should put a real life trigger warning.
But that's how disconnected I had become from it. Like, I knew that this cousin had done things, right? Because I think I'd even told you one time that he, like, was in my house after a funeral. And I was uncomfortable. And I purposely don't have him on Facebook because I don't want to see pictures of him and his children. I don't want to see it. But, like, the emotion behind it of realizing that, like, for example, that's the reason I don't like Christmas trees. Is because it used to happen by the Christmas tree when I would look at the ornaments. But, like, it happened all the time. Like, if it was Thanksgiving and it was raining outside so we couldn't play football, all the cousins would go into one of the bedrooms and, like, play video games or listen to music or whatever. And sure enough, I'd be, like, backed into a corner somewhere. Like, that's why I don't like holidays. But I didn't know that. I just knew that I didn't like holidays. And I just knew that, like, this cousin used to do bad things, but, like, my brain could not combine that these things were correlated and that they had feelings involved and that I was violated as a young child and none of the grown-ups listened to me. Mm-hmm. And so many things like that. He was sitting on the couch and I was sitting in the bed and so many things just were pouring out. And I was like, fuck, I'm broken. Like, oh my gosh. I said, this is worse than we thought. I said, you might want to get out now, homie. And I was also dealing with the bipolar diagnosis because that's a disease where, there's really not many treatment options. Like, I can think off the top of my head 3 or 4 medications for it. And it is clinically proven to worsen with age. So as I get older, it's going to worsen. Now, do I have an extreme case of it? No. So by the time I'm 80 years old, will I have the most extreme case? Probably not. But, like, you just never know with these sorts of things. And I'm going to be on this medication for probably the rest of my life unless they come out with some miracle drug, whatever. And so it was really hard. But I think that's definitely when I started actually healing from these things, when I actually realized that I had things I needed to heal from. Because I didn't think I did for a while. For a long time, not just a while. For 26 years. But I don't know.
Like, where do I go from here?
I feel like that was the peak.
That was the peak. Well, with everything that happened a couple of years ago when you were hitting that peak, how are you feeling now?
I'm feeling good. I think that once I knew that there was actually things that I needed to heal from, and I was also given guidance on how to heal from them, not that I'm actually healed from any of them, but, like, I didn't used to cry.
You didn't? You remember when I would cry and you'd be like, there.
I didn't used to cry, at all, ever. And my family is such dicks about it because now, like, anytime I get a little teary-eyed, they're like, oh my God, Alyssa's crying. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
It's a little fair,
I got a reputation, okay?
A bad bitch, okay?
But, like, I shut off my emotions for so long because I think subconsciously I knew that when I did decide to feel all the feels, it was going to be like a waterfall. And I didn't have time for that because I was raising 3 very small children. But I decided that the method of therapy that I like best is DBT. And it's the one that just makes the most sense to me. And so I got a lifetime supply of DBT workbooks and blew through them, like, in the last 2 years, because just, like, I'm very much a workbook person. Like, I can sit in therapy for a while, but I need to put it to paper.
I feel like you're the type of person, if someone tells you what to do, you are going to do it, and you're going to do it right, and you're going to, you know, like, you want to do it.
Yeah.
But if someone's, like, telling you to sit there and sit with it and process it, you're just kind of like, cool, now what? Like, it's just different. You want to, like, put it to work.
Yes, and so that's why I like DBT so much. It's because, like, so, like, Cheryl does CBT.
Yeah. Which works for someone like me.
Yes, but for me, I'm like, bro, we're just talking in circles. But DBT gives you actual legit steps and tools. Yeah. And so, yeah, I feel like I was just telling my mom, actually, on Friday or Saturday, I don't know, that this is the first October since 2017 that I did not have any sort of mental breakdown.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
How does that feel for you, looking at, like, the hindsight of it?
I'm so proud.
Good.
Because, like, obviously last year and then the year before, like, 22 and 23, like, I kind of knew what was happening, right? Like, 22 was obviously being at Woodland Springs.
It was, like, yeah, the peak, yeah.
But all those years before that, I didn't understand. And so what I've kind of learned about myself is that come, like, August, September, October, I kind of get sad. And then November, December, like, I start to feel better, and you know what I mean? Everyone's bipolar is different. Mine very much seems to be on, like, a calendar. And I definitely had, like, sad moments this month. Like, I definitely cried to, like, Taylor Swift songs, you know, a little more than normal.
The feelings that you just, like, can't quite pinpoint, but you're just, like, feeling, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But, like, nothing wild. Like, I mean, think about it. Last October was when I fired Comfort and also
Understandably.
tore that principal's head off.
I remember that, but I forgot. Yeah, that was that was a rough one.
And I didn't have that this year, and it felt very big. It felt very peaceful to come to that realization and kind of see, like, a tangible grasp of, like, the things that I'm healed from. Like, I'm learning those things about myself, and so I'm able to kind of keep an eye out for it and, like, do a check-in with myself and, like, hey, how you doing, homie? And that's something that Alissa 5 years ago just would never have even guessed.
That's growth.
I know.
Sounds so lame, but it's
I know.
true. And it's hard. It's so hard to recognize when you're actually going through the motions of it all. I mean, you and I have talked about so many times how healing feels so fake. It's not real. But the truth is, it doesn't feel like you're doing it when you're doing it. And then you'll look back and be like, oh, past Alissa wouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
Past Rowan wouldn't have done that. And it's somewhat gratifying. Is that the right word?
It is.
I mean, like,
it is. It's just like a warm hug.
It's just all the work you've been putting in. It's showing. And all the things that have happened to you, it's made you who you are. And it's all that lame cliche stuff, but it's so fair and real.
I know.
Gosh, healing's lame. I mean, do it, but it's lame.
It is.
No.
I feel like that wraps that up.
And that's a wrap on Alissa. Where's the little, like, movie sign? Man, that was a good one.
I feel really hot.
Good. See, feel how I feel. I realized as you were talking, like, I'm so far removed from some of the stuff that happened in the past. Like, do I think it shaped me? Absolutely. It was a very big part of all these small nooks and crannies of who I am. But I forget because there's so much shit that's happened in the more present day too. Like, there's so many layers.
Like an ogre.
Oh God. Okay, Shrek. Yes, there's so many layers like an onion. There really are so many layers that make us into who we are, and it's really fucking hard to peel them back.
It really is, because so much of it you just forget.
With you and I think a lot of people who have experienced trauma and who don't want to admit they've experienced trauma, we push that shit down.
Like, I have a fantastic memory. I could tell you, like, literally, if I were to sit here for long enough, I could pull out every single traumatic event that has ever happened to me. But, like, as I'm just sitting here talking, like, if it's not a big one, I'm not going to mention it.
Yes, 100%. So,
yeah.
We're going to call that a win. So, thank you for listening to our trauma dump. As we said in the last one, you can find us everywhere on Our Graves Pod.
Everywhere except Twitter.
We really want to hear from you. Please go to our website and fill out a contact form where you can anonymously or not anonymously submit your stories, topics you want us to discuss, anything and everything, because we really want to hear from you, because we are not that important. We're not. The way you laugh at it, you're like, as if we are that important, okay?
No, we're not. But yes, we definitely want to hear from you guys. Want to hear your stories surrounding mental health and your journeys and what has happened that makes your brain tick. And if you want them to read us, if you want them to read us, if you want us to read them, just let me know. I'll read it out loud, okay? Can you edit that to make that sound fine? Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Love you.